senior trade and jobs advisor Curtis Ellis, who's in Washington. He was part of the ceremony there. So, Curtis, how do you respond to these critics?
I say that President Trump has done more for the American worker and more to reset relations with China and put it on a solid footing than the Democrats have ever done. Look at who their leading candidate is, Joe Biden, corporate shill, a shill for China. His kid accepts $1.5 billion from China. He goes out there and he says, come on, man, China's not our competitor. They're nice guys. And then he mouths the same platitudes that Obama and the rest of the crowd have been saying for 40 years, which is, we've got to trade with the rest of the world. President Trump has taken the mask off of China. We know they are a techno-totalitarian state that is intent on replacing America as the prime mover in the world. And now we can trade with them, yes, but they can stop cheating. They better. And we finally have an agreement that has enforceable terms in it and that we do the enforcing, not some bureaucrats in Geneva, not some World Trade Organization, not some corporate lawyers who are bought and sold by the Chinese lobby somewhere down the line. We get to decide if China's living up to the agreement, and if it's not, we can reimpose tariffs, or, I read the agreement, withdraw from the agreement.
So,
that's
Curtis,
never been in a trade deal before. Never.
Curtis, hi, it's Liz Peek. Thanks for joining us this evening. It seems to me very smart to put the negotiations on phase 2 off during the campaign season, because what we saw during phase 1 was constant back and forth negotiations, disappointment followed by elation. The market was seesawing up and down constantly. I don't think we want that in the months leading up to the election. Don't you think it would be smart just to say, hey, let's see how this goes. Let's make sure this is working properly. And when I'm reelected, we'll tackle phase 2.
I agree 100%, Liz, and that's essentially what the president has said. These tariffs are going to remain in place until phase 2. In the past, he said phase 2 probably won't happen until after the agreement. Right now, and I believe you said this before, Liz, business now has certainty. 25% tariffs remain in place. They can now start planning on investing in the United States. Right before I went on, I was talking with someone with a textile mill in North Carolina. They've already invested $500 million in the local economy there in their plant and capital investments, and they want to see permanent tariffs on apparel and on textiles, and they will invest more. And there are many other manufacturers I talked to that say the same thing. So yeah, let's keep phase 2 after the election. Right now, business has the certainty. We have a calm patch. We can go forward and keep moving in bringing that high wage, high productivity model back to the United States. That's what made us great. Hey,
Steve Moore here. Look, my hat's off to you all. This is an amazing deal and much better than even I thought that, President Trump would be able to get with China at this phase. What's interesting to me about it is, 2 or 3 months ago, it looked as though, China was not going to bend, that they were not going to make a deal, that they were going to wait till after the election. And then all of a sudden they really shifted their position. It seems to me that Trump's strategy of hitting them with very tough tariffs drove them to the negotiating table. And my question for you, did this tactic work, and will they abide by the agreement?
Well, that's 2 questions. The tactic clearly worked. They've been squeezed for money. They depend on the U.S. consumers to give them the lifeblood of the Chinese economy, which is hard currency. Will they abide by the agreement? I don't have a crystal ball. If the past is any prologue to the future, you can count on them to find a way to weasel out of it or try not to. But the good news is we get to decide if they're complying or not, and we don't wait 3 years for the World Trade Organization to do something about it. We can take unilateral action, and that's a very good thing.
Yeah. I just think we have to set the stage a little differently here and say some facts. One, tariffs are as a tax to the consumers. Okay, so the idea that we can put tariffs back, which is a tax to us, is a little crazy. It has not been a good thing for our country having tariffs come back to us. And we know that because business investment has contracted, manufacturing has slowed, and we've had more farmers in bankruptcy in the past year because of this than in any year past. So the idea that this has all worked, I think it's to be determined. I don't think we should be, whistling Dixie all of a sudden, especially since there is a 60-day out clause. If you read the 80 pages, yes, there are things that have to be done, but structurally, we don't know how it's going to be implemented yet. So I think that, yes, it's all even with my Democratic counterparts, I'm for free trade, and I believe that this iterative move is a good thing. But I do think we should see what the structural moves are.
Curtis, I got to say, in reaction to what Robert just said, they are not required now to change any laws. One of the things that was the deal breaker, apparently, in the last deal that broke apart at the last minute was they had initially agreed to change laws regarding some of these intellectual property deals. Now they're not doing that anymore. Is that a problem?
Well, the laws in China don't mean the same thing as laws in the United States, so I wouldn't get too hung up on that. As per what Robert said, though, all the evidence shows that consumers have not paid the price for tariffs. And one last thing, if we make a unilateral declaration that we are never going to use tariffs, that gives the other side, the Chinese or any other partner across the table, every incentive to go ahead and use tariffs against us, because we've already said we'll never use them against you. So it's not as simplistic as it seems. We brought China to the table. President Trump's strategy worked 100%. We will now see if China lives up to an agreement. That could be a first for the Chinese Communist Party.
Well, it is signed and sealed. We'll see if it's delivered properly. Curtis, thank you very much. Good to see you, my friend. Appreciate